Every fall when I winterize, one of the things that I do to my camper and my RV, our fifth wheel, is I take the battery out and put it in my garage, because it'll be warmer in my garage up here in northeast Ohio in the winter time, and less likely that the battery will freeze than it will sitting in my fifth wheel RV. Throughout the winter, then I pop the top caps off occasionally, check the water levels, and I put a battery charger on it every couple months just to kind of top it off. I do not leave it sit on the concrete. That's not supposed to be good for batteries. So I set it on some small wood blocks throughout the winter times, stored in my garage. Now that we're de-winterizing, it's time to check the water levels on the battery, which I did, and they're covering the cells. And then I'm going to take it out and put it in the front of my fifth wheel. The temperatures have finally started to raise up into the second week of April. Typically by now I'm mowing grass, but this year it's been colder, and so I'm gonna put the battery in because the nighttime temperatures are starting to raise up. Okay, now I've got the battery in the compartment, and I've got the cables hooked on. The white one goes to the negative, the black goes to the positive. I've cranked them down, and I have it sitting in its battery box in here. And then we set on top the lid to the battery box that has a hose that runs up and vents out above this compartment. So really that's all there is to the battery. Now I need to hook up my my cord to the house to keep the battery charged, and that way anything electrical inside the camper, like the monoxide detector and stuff, doesn't start draining my battery down to the point where I kill the battery and I gotta buy a new one. Okay, one of the last things then after installing the battery is I pulled my cord out of the RV and attached it to the extension cord that I have buried and running through a pipe underneath our sidewalk here. And then the extension cord comes into around and under the garage door, and I have a plug here in my garage to plug it into. This keeps things powered in the RV when we have it sitting here at home. Keeps the battery charged up also. Today I am going to continue working on de-winterizing the fifth wheel camper that you can see behind me. And right now I'm getting ready to get rid of the antifreeze that's in my water lines and sanitize the freshwater tank and the water lines. Okay, the process that I have used for years to sanitize my fresh water is something that I got off of paper from an RV dealer, and it says to take the number of gallons your freshwater tank is, which mine is 45, and you multiply it times 0.13 to get the number of ounces of bleach that you mix with the water when you fill up your freshwater tank to sanitize it. So for me, I put 12 ounces, and I use a shot glass, and I keep it solely for this purpose, but I put 12 ounces of bleach in this bucket, and then I'm going to add the water to it to fill up. To create my solution, I have an old whisk here that I mix the bleach with the water. Once I have the bucket full and we get that mixed, then I take a funnel and we will dump that into our freshwater tank opening, and then I finish filling the freshwater tank up completely. Okay, in the past I have used a funnel and had my wife out here holding the funnel for me while I pour that bucket of bleach water in. But this year I couldn't find the funnel, so I'm using a watering can and with the bleach water in it to get it in here, and it seems to work really well for pouring it in there and not being messy and sloppy, because I always usually ran down the side of the camper. And after you pour all that in there, then I'm going to take my water hose and stick the end of it in here. And fill up my fresh water tank, or the fresh water tank, the rest of the way. Okay, now we are inside our fifth wheel, and I'm going to just briefly take you around. Once I get the fresh water tank filled up, and of course I empty it out in the fall when I winterize so that there's no water in there, but we put the bleach water in. We want to sanitize it and sanitize the water lines to make sure that everything, there's nothing growing in them. So, and get out the antifreeze, RV antifreeze that we put in for the winter. So I will probably start back in the bathroom area. Let me take you back there briefly. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. And I'll probably start right here with the bathroom sink, and then we'll move to the shower, getting the antifreeze out, running the water using the water pump. The toilet area I'll just do last. And then I will do the kitchen sink here. So I just thought I'd show you this real quick, and then I'm going to make a little time lapse of me going around and checking the faucets. It'll probably be pretty short, but just opening the faucets and making sure that everything, the pink stuff all comes out, and we start getting the bleach water coming through. After I get the bleach water in the lines, then I let it set for an hour to 2 hours. The paper that said you take the number of gallons of your fresh water tank, you multiply it by 1.3, and that tells you how many ounces of bleach to put in and mix with the water, is for a 4-hour sanitizing. But then on down it says if you want to increase your time, double that number for 1 hour. So that's how, because mine would have came out to 6 ounces. There's a little over 6 ounces. Yeah, come out about 6 ounces. So for me to double it into sanitize it in 1 hour was 12. So I put 12 ounces of bleach in the bucket of water, mixed it up, and then we poured it in our 45-gallon fresh water tank. Now that I've got the bleach sanitizing part of my water system done, I will drain out the rest of the fresh water with the bleach in it out of my fresh water tank, and then I will mix up a bucket of baking soda with water to dump into the fresh water tank, and then fill the fresh water tank up with water and pump that into the my fresh water lines to let it set for about an hour, just to try to get rid of some of that chlorine and bleach taste that might be in the lines. The recommended from the paper I had showed about a half a cup of baking soda to a gallon of water mixed up per 15 gallons of fresh water. So usually I just take the old baking soda that I had, container that I had in the refrigerator over the winter, and I dump it inside of the bucket, and then I fill the bucket most of the way up, and then I take this and then I stir it all up to dissolve it, and then dump it in my fresh water tank. And that'll help clean out a lot of the bleach taste and smell that there might be residual in your water lines. Okay, now I have filled my freshwater tank up with the baking soda water, and I'm about ready to open up my different sinks in the shower and run the baking soda water through the water lines inside the camper to help get rid of the bleach water, and that way we don't have a bleach water taste when we go camping. And then I'll let it set for about an hour, and then I will drain out I'll put some fresh water in. I'll hook up my city water, actually. Probably I'll drain out my fresh water tank, I'll hook up my city water, and then I'll flush the baking soda water out of the lines briefly, just to get it out of there too. But the baking soda is just to neutralize the bleach that might be in my water lines. So first off, I'm going to start with the toilet. I had RV antifreeze in it all winter, and I put a little bit of the bleach water in the toilet, but I didn't want to put a ton of bleach water down into the black tank. I would rather put some baking soda water down in there. So first of all, we're going to take and pull the lever here, and let's push any pink in there out. Any bleach water that might be in there out. You see there's some air still in the line. This would be the farthest point from the water pump in my water lines. That should be good. Put a little water in there. Next, we will come over here to the sink for the bathroom. Open up the hot and the cold. So far, we have no water going through the hot water tank. So I open up it's basically cold water coming through both, but we need to clean them both out. Every so often I will get some water on my fingers to smell and possibly taste to see if there's any bleach water still coming out. And I couldn't taste any there. So next, let's go to the shower. Open up the valves here for the shower head to let some water out. Doesn't taste too bad. Now let's go to the kitchen and open up the kitchen lines here. There are two traps under the kitchen sink, so of course when I winterize I pour a little bit of the antifreeze in the traps once we were done, just to make sure any water sitting in the traps wouldn't freeze. So want to make sure we flush the antifreeze out of both of the traps. Tastes pretty good. So that's basically all that I do, as I've explained. For sanitizing the fresh water lines, I will let this water set in the lines for maybe half hour to an hour, and then I'm going to hook up my hose to the city water inlet, and I'll just flush that water out briefly to make sure that there's no baking soda left in the lines. Something else we do during the de-winterizing is we go around and we check all the lights to make sure they're working. and we look and see if there's any bugs under the shields that need to be cleaned out. And you clean the bugs out. And of course we go around and we wipe the counters down and with cleaners and stuff before we take our first camping trip. But and the one in the bathroom, toilet room area, they all seem to be working. Another thing that I do when I de-winterize is I take down the smoke alarm and I change out the 9-volt battery in it, because it's been in there for a whole year, went through the summer and probably sat in there all winter. So I put a new 9-volt battery in the smoke alarm to make sure I have a fresh one that works. There we go. So always remember, check that smoke alarm and change the battery before you get ready to go on your first camping season. Another thing to check when de-winterizing before your first camping trip of the season is your gas stove, to make sure that the gas is getting to the burners and that they're going to light. A lot of times when you first go to light them, whether it's traveling to a campground that's been sitting a while or if it's been sitting all winter, the igniter switch won't light it. So I use a little portable igniter to get it going, to get the gas up through, to get the air out of the lines. But once you get that first one lit, then all the others should light. Another thing that I do when I winterize is I put recycled Walmart plastic bags or Giant Eagle, whatever, grocery bags in the furnace outlets to try to keep bugs and stuff from trying to go in there and create nests during the winter. So when I'm de-winterizing, I need to pull the bags out so that we can check the furnace. I've already turned on my LP gas tank so that I can check the furnace, because I need to make sure that the LP tank is feeding it. So the next thing we'll do is we will walk and go in and turn the furnace on. Now the thing about the furnace is, being that you haven't used the gas for a little bit, sometimes it takes a little while for it to ignite. It may take several minutes to maybe even up to 15 or 20 minutes. But these are some of the things you need to check when you're de-winterizing, is to make sure the furnace is going to ignite and working properly and starts blowing heat out through the registers. Okay, back to the thermostat. After you check the furnace that it's going to work right and light and you get heat out of it, then you need to also check your air conditioner. If you put a cover on your air conditioner in the winter, you need to go up on the roof and remove it first. But I did not this last winter. So so basically need to kick on the air conditioner and set the thermostat to try to get it to kick on. And there's my vent in here. So the other thing you need to do is pull down this, pull down that filter, clean the filter for the season, and then put it all back together. Another thing that needs checked is the refrigerator when you de-winterize before you take off for your first trip camping. We usually leave our doors propped open, like right about there for the winter time. We just have little pieces of cardboard that we stick in here, like this, and kind of bend it over to hold the doors open. So we got the refrigerator, we got the freezer. So one of the things you got to do is you need to turn it on, and you need to check it with gas. So I let the button out to check with gas to see if it would get cool, and I did that a couple days ago, and it did cool down, so the gas portion of it is working fine. But now I'm going to take it off of gas and put it on auto, and to check to see if it gets cold with the electricity, cooling it down using the electric portion of the refrigerator. But like I said, you need to check both the gas and the electric if you have that type of refrigerator, to make sure that all the components are working before you go on your first trip camping. The next thing that I need to get ready for in de-winterizing is my hot water tank. We have a 6-gallon Suburban hot water tank. For the winter time, I take a plastic kitchen trash bag and put inside the door to try to keep bugs and things out from getting in there. As you can see, snow gets in there and melts and everything in the bag. Now my hot water tank, because it's a Suburban, takes one of these anode rods. So every time we get ready for winter, I take it out, I flush out the tank in there with water, and leave the anode rod out for the winter time. So now that it's time to go camping, I need to put this rod back in here, or if it's really deteriorated too bad, I need to go get a replacement. Inside my camper, there is a switch in my water lines that I switch off for the winter time. When I put the antifreeze in, I switch off so the antifreeze doesn't come into the hot water tank. And so after I get the anode rod in and get this shut up and get the sanitizing of my water system done, then I can go flip that switch, which happens to be underneath the counters, and fill the hot water tank up, and then I can test the hot water tank gas and electric before we go camping. So another thing that needs checked when you de-winterize is you need to put your slide out and check your rails, and check, you know, if you got a hydraulic system, you need to check your hydraulics fluid. And but mine, I think, is electric, and so I try to keep the rails fairly greased to work smoothly going in and out. Another thing to check is your tires after sitting all winter. You need to check the inflation, pounds of air that's in them. You need to pull them off, check the brakes, and every year or two you also are supposed to check and repack your wheel bearings if needed. I did mine last year. Okay, another thing that needs checked is we need to pull the cover off our air conditioner and check and make sure there's no bees nests and nothing like that, insects or anything got underneath there, to cause a problem. We also probably need to check and see if we need to lubricate any bearings or anything. Anytime you're up on top of your RV, you need to be cautious if the roof is wet about being slippery, and just be careful where you're walking and putting your feet so that you don't step off an edge and fall. Also, rubber roofs like this, if you put your knees down on it or your leaves a white chalky film on your clothes that will wash out. But so you might want to just bring up a knee pad or something. See inside mine, there's a nest that's been built, and it looks like there's something under there alive right now. So I need to clean that out and get rid of it. And there he goes. Kick the nest off. Here's another one, an old one. So everything looks good. Let me go grab my can of lubricant. Everything seems to be running fine there. It's a good thing I took this off, because we found a wasp nest in there that could have caused me problems down the road. As you can see, these things can be tricky to get back on. Alright, this is our TV antenna. It's called a bat wing antenna. Let me walk around here so you can see. This was back before digital TV, when we still had analog, but we still pick up digital signals pretty good. Thing you need to do the most is lubricate different points that move when it raises up off the ground, off the ceiling, because you lower it down and it spins around left and right to help pick up a signal. So the other thing is, you need to make sure you're sealed around this, and we're sealed all around the mount. But when I go downstairs, I will turn this thing side to side and up and down a little bit to work the lubricant in. You might want to check the screens on the inside and see if you need to pull your vent covers off. I put these vent covers on years ago, and we love them because we can leave our vents open and the rain won't come in, and the wind can still give us some ventilation. But if you see anything in the screens, sometimes bees will get in there, sometimes some dirt and stuff gets in there, or dead bugs from the winter. You might need to pull those off and clean them inside and clean all that out from your screens. Another thing that needs looked at is all the sealant around the roof where they put in bolts and where they attached like the rubber roof to the front cap and things. Like I said, on the antenna, around this antenna mount. And if you see anything cracking really bad, or any place that you think that water can get in around, then you need to get some Dicor self-leveling caulk and put on it. And it looks like I've got some spots that I need to come up here and do. You buy it, most of the time you buy it in a tube and you use a caulking gun. To apply it. As you can see, looks like around these skylight windows I need to go around and put some of that down. When I close this up for the winter, I typically go around and look and put this down, put some additional stuff down where we might have, where it seemed like maybe it was leaking through the year, or we think maybe it was cracking. So